Taiwan in more danger today than it was before Nancy Pelosi's visit?
China has always been threatening Taiwan for years, and it's getting more serious in the last few years, and it's always been that way. Whether Speaker Pelosi visit Taiwan or not, the Chinese military threat against Taiwan has always been there.
What do you believe China's motivation is, and do you think that their timeline has changed?
China's motivation, as I said a little bit earlier, is not going to end at Taiwan. They claim East China Sea, they claim South China Sea, they work very hard to go into the Pacific. Their influence in South Asia and Africa, even in Latin America, is unprecedented these days, and therefore it has a global ambition.
That's the words of Taiwan's Foreign Minister Dr. Joseph Wu. Tensions between Beijing and Taipei increased rapidly after US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's Taiwan visit. China has responded with its biggest ever show of military force in the air and seas around the island, involving the blasting of ballistic missiles. China argues it's Beijing's internal matter. But what about the Taiwanese? And this is where things get complicated. You see, regardless of Taiwan being an independent country with its flag, anthem, currency, democratic government and army, China views Taiwan as its breakaway province that will ultimately be part of the country. Whatever it is, the concerns over here is, will this internal matter lead to a world war? Why China wants Taiwan? Why didn't the dragon invade its tiny neighbor yet? What's deterring the dragon from the reunification dream? Why does America support Taiwan? What is Taiwan miracle? What will be the repercussions all over the world if China invades Taiwan? And how will this political predicament affect the global financial system? Hello and welcome, I'm Bhavya Neeraj and I will explain the answers to all these questions in this episode of The Delight of Wisdom. Also at the end of the video, I will share some of my personal experiences in Taiwan. So let's begin. Is an island in the South China Sea. In fact, a paradise in the heart of the Pacific. It is around 36,000 square kilometers and is roughly 100 miles from the coast of Southeast China. It's a vibrant and pluralistic society. In 2021, Taiwan was ranked Asia's #1 full democracy. Another uploadable fact about Taiwan is Audrey Tang, the world's first transgender cabinet minister. Moreover, it's the first country in the area to legalize same-sex nuptials. Why authoritarian China wants such a spirited, independent Taiwan? To understand the story, let me take you into the history. It was during the Zhou dynasty, when Her Majesty sent an expeditionary troop to explore the region. The island seems to have first appeared in Chinese records. Evidence Beijing manipulates to support its territorial claim. In the 1600s, the Dutch East India Company founded a colony in Taiwan. The island first came under full Chinese control in 1683 when the Qing dynasty began administering it. This rule lasted till 1895. Then they gave up the island to Japan after losing the First Sino-Japanese War. Decades later, China took the island again in 1945 after Japan lost World War II and it was called the Republic of China, ROC. But ROC was a murder. It was under a military dictatorship of the leader Chiang Kai-shek, who led a nationalist party called Kuomintang. A civil war erupted in mainland China between nationalist government forces led by Chiang Kai-shek and Mao Zedong's Communist Party. Mao won the war in 1949 and took control of Beijing. He establishes the People's Republic of China, PRC. Chiang Kai-shek and what was left of the Kuomintang, that is around 1.5 million people, including soldiers, scholars, thinkers and business illuminati, fled to Taiwan. They took along many national treasures and most of China's gold reserves and declared Taipei as their national capital, where they ruled for the next several decades. The island was a paradise with a plethora of resources and a subtropical climate. Advanced infrastructure built by the Japanese was also a highlight. China points to this history to say that Taiwan was originally a Chinese province. But the Taiwanese points to the same history to assert that they were never part of the modern Chinese state that was first formed after the revolution in 1911 or the People's Republic of China that was established under Mao in 1949. Then there was a fight. PRC led by the Communist Party leader Mao Zedong and ROC led by the autocrat Chiang Kai-shek competed for international recognition and legitimacy. Taiwan held the ROC seat at the United Nations. The West recognized Taiwan as only China. Many conflicts between PRC and ROC followed, which includes the bombing of the Taiwanese Kinmen and Matsu Islands by Mao's men. Amid these unpleasant events, Taiwan saw an economic boom in the 1960s. This was the so-called Made in Taiwan period. The meticulous focus on industrialization and economic growth transformed the island and is called the Taiwan Miracle. Along with Singapore, Hong Kong and South Korea, Taiwan is one of the 4 Asian tigers. But this era didn't last long. Mao's PRC became strategically significant to the United States. So with the rest of the world too. PRC led by Mao was recognized as the only China by the United Nations in 1971. The years that followed witnessed the end of the two leaders. In 1975, Chiang Kai-shek died and 1 year later in 1976, Mao died. Economic relations improved between the two sides in the following years, but cultural divisions became worse. Beijing and Taipei agreed on the One China policy in a meeting held in Hong Kong in 1992. But it was a verbal alliance. Beijing interpreted it as the two sides belonging to one China, but Taipei perceived the notion differently. Later in the 2000s, democracy was established in Taiwan. Chen Shui-bian was elected as the president. His party candidly supported Taiwanese independence. This rattled China. China was so indignant, and on March 14, 2005, they came out with the anti-secession law, which emphasized on non-peaceful methods to accomplish reunification if Taiwan independent forces try to secede Taiwan from China. Then, in 2013, Xi Jinping became the president of China and revealed his reunification dream.
Unification is the hope of all Chinese people. If China can be unified, all Chinese will enjoy a happy life.
便享福.
If China can't unify, everyone will suffer.
But what about the Taiwanese? Taiwan viewed the first open protest against China in 2014 by Taiwanese students demanding transparency. This was called the Sunflower Movement. Taiwan wants to remain a democracy. Following years glimpsed the evidence. Dr. Tsai Ing-wen, the current president of Taiwan from the Democratic Progressive Party, won the elections consecutively in 2016 and 2020. Her re-election in 2020 was a record. Currently, only 14 countries recognize Taiwan as a sovereign country. China exerts considerable diplomatic pressure on other countries not to recognize Taiwan or to do anything which implies recognition. Considering the exponential prosperity of China's military power for the past few decades, in any military confrontation, China's armed forces would dwarf those of Taiwan. But why didn't the dragon invade its tiny neighbor yet? What's deterring the dragon from the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation? There comes America again into the picture. Washington's long-standing agreement has been one of strategic ambiguity, to the magnitude that it would meddle militarily if China were to invade Taiwan. Officially, it glues to the One China policy, which recognizes only one Chinese government in Beijing and has formal relations with Beijing rather than Taipei. But it has also committed to supplying Taiwan with defensive weapons and emphasized that any assault by China would cause grave concern. Now listen to this. When asked whether the US would defend Taiwan militarily, Mr. Biden replied yes.
Would U.S. forces defend the island?
Yes, if in fact there was an unprecedented attack.
So unlike Ukraine, to be clear, sir, U.S. forces, U.S. men and women, would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion?
Yes.
Why do America's priorities deviate again? why Joe Biden says the US will defend Taiwan against China. And if that happens, the entire world could witness perhaps the Third World War. Now the question over here is, what is so special about this tiny island that the world's two superpowers are willing to take such enormous jeopardy? The first justification for this is the South China Sea dispute. To understand the importance of this region, let's dive deep into the area. The South China Sea is this region in the world where you can see Indonesia, Malaysia, Taiwan, Philippines and the Vietnam. What's so special about this region? A significant percentage of the entire world's shipping passes through this area. Moreover, a humongous amount of nearly $5 trillion worth of trade cruises through its waters every single year. The sea is also estimated to have 11 billion barrels of crude oil and 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. And the most critical advantage of all is that the country controlling this maritime group will have a natural military advantage over the rest of the world. China is so obsessed with this and they even constructed artificial islands to claim the region. If China succeeds in taking control of Taiwan, it will possess a significant influence on one of the most important places in the world, which is rich in plenty of resources. Moreover, dominance over the enormous proportion of trade that voyages through the region. The second explanation is the small island is a chip superpower. TSMC, also known as Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, is the world's largest contract manufacturer of the semiconductor chips that power our phones, laptops, cars, watches, refrigerators and more. They dominate the global chip production by 65%. The world's overwhelming dependency on this giant Taiwanese company is a shield against any assault. Taiwan's Silicon Shield. It accounts for 92% of global production for the most advanced semiconductor process nodes. You hear that? 92%, making it the main supplier of the vast majority of chips that power the world's most intelligent machines from Apple iPhones to F-35 fighter jets. Replicating the manufacturing of semiconductors is an extremely expensive and complicated process that requires a long period. Also, TSMC is far ahead of its peers when it comes to the most advanced technologies. After Pelosi's visit, Beijing punishes Taiwan by cancelling the imports of citrus fruits and fish. Of course, they didn't sanction semiconductors due to their dependency on them like everyone else. A Chinese takeover in Taiwan could give Beijing some control over one of the world's most important industries. For the US, the above mentioned reasons are a matter of serious concern, a question about their prominence and power. Now the most important concern over the issue is, what will be the repercussions all over the world if China invades Taiwan? And how will this political predicament affect the global financial system? So, if China unleashes a full-scale Taiwan invasion, and if America intervenes, as I already spoke of, it will probably escalate into a Third World War. As the world is already suffering the consequences of the pandemic tsunami and the Russia-Ukraine war, this scenario, if happens, will be a nightmare to the global financial systems. The shock waves of the catastrophe will rattle the global markets, and no matter whether you live in the safest part of the world, the aftermath of this agony will be drastic for all of us. Moving on to the last and most interesting segment of the episode, my personal experiences in Taiwan. Ever since I reached here, this little island and its people astonishes me from many perspectives and influenced my intentions incredibly. Anything you ask, the lifestyle here is comfortable with plenty of perks. Healthcare system, one of the best in the world. Infrastructure, excellent and reliable with affordable and easily accessible transport facilities. And finally, safety. Extremely safe and secure with zero or very low crime rate. Anything you need for a healthy and harmonious life, Taiwan provides the best. Government policies are structured in such a way that the people enjoy the maximum privilege. Taiwan's pandemic response was remarkable. Without any assistance from the World Health Organization, Taiwan outperformed the rest of the world in combating COVID. Also, despite all the political challenges and frequently occurring natural disasters, Taiwan epitomizes resilience, and Taiwanese people are the embodiment of integrity and anti-fragility. 4 years of Taiwan life, and if you ask me my opinion, this is heaven on earth. Hope this unravelable dispute settles peacefully.